Good morning, Tiffany.
Hi.
Thank you so much for meeting with me again. It's just been a pleasure getting to know you these past couple weeks.
Great. It's been a pleasure knowing you, getting to know you too, Olivia. What can I do for you today?
Well, I know in our previous meetings we've discussed a little bit about Bloomingdale's goals moving forward, as well as kind of my movement's products. So I just wanted to talk to you about what those goals were. You mentioned it was getting some online traffic into your stores, getting some more millennial customers, and then just increasing your general sales. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about those features of my product that will help you get there and how will help influence your bottom line. And if that all goes well, I'd love to set up a meeting with your purchasing team about next week or something. How does it all sound to you?
That sounds great. I'm more familiar with the types of products. I'm really just kind of interested in your whole strategy and plan to, roll this whole thing out.
Perfect. I'm really happy to hear that. So the reason that Movement has reached out to Bloomingdale's in the first place is because we see that we have a really similar selling strategy. You guys, I know you have that really awesome new flagship store in New York and your pop-up shops. I actually went to visit this weekend. It was a really cool shopping experience. And that kind of innovation is exactly what Movement is implementing as well, but just kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. So you guys are the in-store retailer, we're the online retailer. And clearly you've already mastered the brick and mortar selling experience, but I would like to help you launch into the 21st century and get that online presence as well. So without further ado, would it be all right if I talk to you a little bit more about the product?
Sure. Like I mentioned, I've heard a lot about, Movement and all the hype, and I'm curious to see a little more about it.
All right, excellent. So Movado has recently acquired Movement. We're an online brand of watches that has been successful exclusively through online marketing and sales. Yeah, so the watches are very simple, they're minimalistic designs, and they're also customizable and interchangeable. So it's been a great product for millennials, people kind of with that very simple classic style, as well as any kind of fashion influencer and young professional. And people have just gone crazy for the designs, but primarily for the cost. They're extremely affordable compared to the general watches out there on the market.
Yeah.
Right, so with all that aside, based on everything that you and I talked about, I understand that your goals are to increase online sales by about 12%, is that correct?
Yep.
All right, great. And so your strategy to do so was to attract those online customers, those younger customers online who are shopping. All right, perfect. So what I would like to recommend to you is implementing a full exclusive line of Movement watches to your online store, as well as having them in a 2-month pop-up shop feature to gain that exposure and have a little bit more exposure with those young customers. So these watches are a great product, but what you would mostly be investing in is that social exposure that comes with them. And if it's all right with you, I'd like to kind of explain to you how this would be done and how it would translate to Bloomingdale's.
Excellent. I'm all ears.
All right, so Tiffany, there are quite a few things that Movement can do for you. Let's just start off by talking about how this would be implemented. So I've created a couple of mock-up advertisements to show you what it would look like to have a Movement Bloomingdale's collaboration. So our strategy is to have push notification advertisements that are sponsored on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and any other kind of social media. Here's an example that we made up. These are our classic Movement Instagram ads that have been extremely successful the past year. And they would be embedded with a link to your Bloomingdale's site. So all the traffic would actually be directed to you rather than our Movement website. So you'd be able to click here, go to Bloomingdale's, and see the product there. What does Bloomingdale's advertisement look like right now?
We're really just primarily doing email marketing and just kind of some sporadic Facebook ads sprinkled here and there.
Right.
And since we have so many products, it's really difficult to put an ad out that really attracts everyone and appeals to everyone and attracts those large crowds that we're looking for. And this seems it's certainly interesting, but do you have any data to sort of back up the legitimacy of this?
Absolutely. So we have been extremely effective at capturing this online market, and you can see so directly with our online sales. So here I have a little graph for you that has our revenue and as well as our click-through rate from 2018. So you can see here it's an upward trend, and it's been growing exclusively because of those online revenues. We don't have any in-store selling, and we don't have any ads outside of the internet, so it's all social media and online sales in that upward trend. So what are your thoughts on implementing this type of selling strategy?
I mean, those numbers certainly do seem impressive, I have to say. And we've kind of been tossing around, doing like this, something ideal like this for a while, but nothing's really stuck.
Right.
And I have to say though, this sounds great in theory, but what do you kind of see the logistics of this partnership? What would Bloomingdale's role be in all of this?
Right, so the ads and the marketing is just the first step. This is what gets customers to your site, and once there, that's when the business starts to happen. So this would bring an increase in the traffic to your site, get way more exposure, way more popularity online, and from that, you would gain the sales of the movement watches. So we've already been highly profitable with these watches. They're a hot commodity, and they're selling very well, as you saw in that last graphic there. But you would also be able to increase your sales on other Bloomingdale's products once people get to your website. So it's just that avenue to get to you. And hopefully what our plan is, with those combined sales, it actually would be projected to get that 12% growth that you're looking for. Now, even though I know we haven't really talked too specific about this plan yet, how do you feel about this type of business strategy?
Seems pretty specific. That's a lot of information. But I will have to say I am starting to really see how this could be a mutually beneficial partnership.
Right. So on that note, what we would like to recommend is that you would carry a 4-watch line of exclusive watches by Movement at Bloomingdale's.
Okay.
And they would be implemented in your online inventory, as well as featured in that 2-month pop-up shop that you guys started doing recently, just to gain that exposure. So the nice thing about Movement watches is that they are really small, so they wouldn't take up the big inventory space as some other bigger items.
Yeah, of course,
especially online. You would just implement them in your warehouse, and then in those pop-up shops, it's nice and easy, limited space in your store.
Yeah, I think I'm not really quite sure to meet with the product team quite yet, and I need to talk with them more in making a decision, bringing on a whole new watch line. But one thing I will have to say is I think I've seen trends that usage by watch usage have actually gone down, and so it's kind of sales.
Okay.
How are you able to mitigate these risks while providing the benefits you've sort of been promising?
Right, so that's definitely been a concern for us as well. Being a exclusive watch company, that's something that we've had to face in the day-to-day. So just to get this straight, I want to make sure I understand your concern. You're worried that if fashion or technology changes, it'll deter people from buying wristwatches, and it'll make this a risky investment. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't want to be having a lot of just unsellable inventory.
Absolutely, completely understand. So to kind of answer your question, do you mind if I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
How does your team do the budgeting for taking on new brands and business?
Sure. Well, we actually have a very well-trained buying team that sort of follows all these fashion trends. They know a lot more about fashion than me, and they really follow the buying patterns as well. And they kind of just seek out the highest trending brands and stuff like that. And we also believe in sort of the bang for buck mentality.
Right.
And so most sales that we can see as the investment driver in our budget is really based on the trends and how those can impact us every quarter.
Absolutely. So your buying team certainly already knows that the online brands are just dominating in sales lately.
Yeah.
And also that young professionals, they're taking their own twist on classic professional fashion. It's definitely classic but changing. So what Movement provides is the same quality as those Movado watches and any other kind of watch in this high fashion industry, but for only $100 for a consumer, which would cost you significantly less. So overall, the price range is really cheap, making it a fairly stable investment. And the trends already prove through our watch sales that the fashion trends of watches aren't going anywhere. They're still skyrocketing for us, and they will still be for you, making this just a low risk, high reward investment. Do you think that sounds a little bit closer to what your budgeting goals are?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty compelling price range. I know Tag Heuer sell for $20,000. We're certainly not going to be able to stock those. Especially for online sales, that's a lot more doable, about
Right.
100 like you mentioned. And you know what? I do think that it sounds like the kind of investment our buying team is looking for to really optimize our growth at a reasonable cost.
So absolutely, it's been our main strategy as a business to provide these high quality products at a lower reasonable price, just so that we can be more attainable and affordable for our consumers. So just to kind of recap the things we've talked about, by being one of Movement's exclusive retailers, Bloomingdale's will have the complete advantage over your competitors. Movement's online following will be directed to your online site, and it will increase your traffic and popularity among young millennial shoppers. Once they're at your site, consumers will have the freedom to buy our watches and any other inventory that you do carry. And the universal design and our cheap prices will make their shopping experience and use of the watch simply effortless. So ultimately, increasing your final sales to that 12% like we discussed. Does this sound like the kind of growth that your company is looking for?
Everything you're talking about, I think it does align with our current goals for, creating an up-to-date and streamlined shop experience for our younger customers, and I do think it attracts them a little.
Great. Well, I'm so glad that you and I are on the same page. Why don't we set up a meeting to meet with the purchasing team sometime next week? We can talk to them about these online traffic goals and the online sales that Movement would bring to you. Would you be able to meet early next week?
Yeah, I think next week is pretty open for me. How about this? I'll give my supervisor a call, and then I'll schedule the meeting for Tuesday.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much,
Thank you very much, Olivia.